Where to begin? I'm Neil. I live with 4 of my friends. Well, at least they pretend to be. Well, you don't even pretend to be my friends, actually. In fact, they all hate me. In fact, if I was in hospital, right, dying, they wouldn't even bother to come and visit me, because they all hate me so much. Our show ran from 1982 to 1984. Only got to the second series before Rick crashed our bus into a Cliff Richard sign off a bloody cliff. Well, we returned for the comic relief special, but that's beside the point. But before that, we originally broadcasted on BBC Two, but later moved to MTV. Technically wise, we did have a sitcom budget, but it was only a matter of time before we found a way around it. We became a light entertainment show. Unfortunately, that meant that we had to have all sorts of people coming into our house playing random music. Well, 11 out of 12 episodes anyway. We had music most of the time, such as Dexy's Midnight Runners and The Demand and the Madness, who came round twice actually. We had to tell them to leave in the end. There was one time that we didn't have a musical act with a lion tamer. It was alright, but as it was still a variety act, we got away with it. We actually won something. I think it's called a BAFTA in 1985 for Best Comedy Series. We must have been doing something right. We did have a bit of an issue with filming though. Our writers weren't from writing backgrounds. Instead, they were British alternative comedians, which made our sitcom stand out a little bit more. Well, according to Neil and Kurtnick anyway. Yet, didn't think about how everything was going to be filmed, so walking in on our first day seemed to be more problematic than we thought. Except the crew seemed to really enjoy themselves and like challenging themselves. Their loss. I'm all about the peace. When filming the outside shots, we used video instead of 16mm film, which at the time was completely unheard of for the BBC. This was because, out of all 4 camera operators, no one could bother carrying all the film equipment. Fun fact, well, it isn't really fun, but I'll tell you anyway. When Vivian crashed the getaway car into the lamppost, the camera shakes. This was because the camera was way too close and it actually got hit. Surprised we really didn't get fined for that. We do break the 4th wall in our show, except someone decides to draw on my face. Then we get a visit from a dancing elephant. This is all added for comedic effect, just for our studio audience. Think that watching us in our daily lives is entertaining, but Mills says it's actually to help us keep up with the pace. Quite modern with our technology, you know.
In terms of social context, I looked at what intended audience The Young Ones was made for. The intended age for The Young Ones was the age group 18 to 30s, maybe because people this age would be able to relate to the characters, either being in university or have recently come out of university and reminisce about their time in a student environment. Or maybe perhaps because they might find a personal gratification out of the show due to being the same age as the characters and not just because they're in university. The Young Ones originally aired on BBC Two. BBC Two was envisaged as a home for less mainstream and more ambitious programming, and even now tends to be more highbrow than programmes on BBC One. The second channel is also sometimes used as a testing ground for programmes. For example, sitcom Absolutely Fabulous first aired on BBC Two before getting approved and highly rated by the public, and was then moved onto the mainstream BBC One. Young Ones producer Paul Jackson said in 2008 that the BBC decided to air the programme because of the beginning of Channel 4, so obviously needed something out there and different to compete. The unusual for BBC Two comedy gained popularity for its anarchic and offbeat humour, and has been said to have been the start of alternative comedy to TV, and was perhaps not what people were used to seeing on television. It also gained attention for its violent and slapstick comedy. According to journalist Justin Quirk, The Young Ones appealed to a younger audience of 10 to 14-year-olds, and is maybe because of this slapstick humour it presented on screen. This generation of children would have been the first generation of tech-savvy kids, and according to Justin, kids would record the shows on VHS and share them around with their friends, therefore making the show more popular and more accessible to those who hadn't seen it yet or missed it during the original airing, as it was on post-Watershed. The target audience for The Young Ones was clearly a younger audience in Britain. It followed the typical British structure of having 6 episodes per series, and it did have a pilot in the US, which only one original cast member, Nigel, who played Neil, featured in this pilot, playing the stupid bloody hippie, as Rick would say. The pilot flopped in America, which is also something seen more recently in British comedies being given series abroad, such as The Inbetweeners US, which had the same script, but the humour just didn't work the same over in America. From the typical British structure of The Young Ones and the anarchic and alternative humour, the show would just not have worked with mass audiences in America. In the episode Summer Holiday, the series' final episode, the group have finished their exams and are ready for 12 weeks off. The episode quite clearly shows slapstick comedy as well as some immature behaviour, which is probably what appealed the most to younger viewers, as well as the ending of a bus crashing and exploding off a cliff. Although the show can be viewed to have been a white middle-class programme dealing with uni life and liberal politics, this would appear to a more of a middle-class audience, like a typical highbrow BBC Two viewer. The Young Ones also had that new element of rebellion, rejecting cherished beliefs and institutions and forming that new and exciting comedy, which attracted so many different types of viewers.
Rick, shut up! Bored. Bloody genre, who cares about it because I'm bored? In terms of the genre, though, The Young Ones came across as a sitcom. It exhibits many techniques which set its place as a sitcom in stone. Our show pushed boundaries and the conventions of sitcoms to the limits. Rather than using sexist or racist comedy, which was common topics at the time, at least according to Mills it was, we focused upon slapstick comedy and political satire and childish behaviours to portray the lives of us four main characters as young adults who are trying to learn to cope with living away. For example, in the episode we've chosen, as a recurrent theme throughout the series, I get really bored. I turn to violence and like to entertain myself. This time, I hit Rick over the head with a cricket bat multiple times, but even mindless vandalism seems boring today. The Young Ones, as a sitcom, came about as a result of the standard routines that then Comedy Store regulars, such as Mile, Edmondson, and Planner, etc., were creating. The comedian series The Comic Strip Presents can be argued as one of the underlying influences of the creation of The Young Ones. The Young Ones can be seen as a third middle sitcom. It combines the home and the workplace in one programme. The Friends act as a sort of pseudo-family, taking the place of traditional nuclear family. Someone get me a drink. I'm very sober and I'm very, very bored. Our show is centred around four lovable losers. Well, we aren't that lovable. Especially not that Neo. He's an ugly poo-faced git. The not-so-lovable loser aspect is a typical trait of British sitcoms, as is the tend for obsessive characters, which are trapped in situations. For example, in our episode, all of us failed university and became homeless after our bloody landlord evicted us for no reason. Well, maybe it was for the TV that was broken, or the broken table, or the broken shelves. But anyway, we're trapped and we're homeless. We also decided to rapture the situation comedy's naturalistic representation. Neil and Krutnik think our show was an attempt at producing an anti-sitcom sitcom. They think that because of the musical interruptions and extreme repetitive violence and abuse, which was both physical and verbal. But I just get bored. They also think this because we had impossible situations, such as the time I found ants on the floor wearing boob tubes on their way to a disco. But we were so controversial that Clark rejected our show as a sitcom. What a nerdling. Mills argued against Clark, saying that not all situation comedies follow all the rules. So you, Clark. Mills also said that some of the elements were deliberately ignored and we replaced them with other narratives, such as the time when we had our Cliff Richard hanger at the end of the episode, which is closer to a soap opera form. He said that genre is open to interpretation, and this was ours. In conclusion, The Young Ones was a bloody great show which pushed the boundaries of sitcoms. It also had various technical advances, such as breaking the fourth wall, which made it a very modern programme at the time.
Do you think Richard's going to give us a first, Vivian?
Well, we would have got a first, Neil, if you'd have bribed Richard.